In the heart of West Africa, where red dust clings to the boots of soldiers and the sun beats down on parched earth, a revolution was quietly brewing. It didn't start with riots or speeches. It began with a young man, a soldier, a visionary. Ibrahim Traoré, born in 1988 in the humble town of Bondoukoui, Burkina Faso, would rise from relative obscurity to become the world's youngest president, capturing the imagination of millions disillusioned by decades of corruption, foreign control, and broken promises. Growing up in a post-colonial nation struggling with poverty and violence, Traoré witnessed firsthand the failures of successive governments that bowed to international powers while ignoring the cries of their own people. His early years were shaped by instability, but also by a burning sense of justice. He studied geology at the University of Ouagadougou, a discipline rooted in the very soil of his homeland, but the call of service led him elsewhere. He joined the army, a path not uncommon in a country where the military often played kingmaker. Traoré's rise through the ranks was marked not by political maneuvering, but by principle. He served with distinction in the anti-jihadist forces battling extremist groups in Burkina Faso's northern regions. It was in the field, not in offices, that he saw the true cost of failed leadership. Villages razed, families torn apart, soldiers left with outdated weapons and no strategy. The enemy wasn't just the terrorists in the shadows, it was the rot within. By 2022, Burkina Faso was crumbling. The people had lost faith in President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, whose government was accused of failing to stop jihadist violence that had displaced nearly 2 million citizens. In January of that year, a military coup ousted Kabore and installed Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. For a brief moment, hope stirred, but Damiba's promises quickly faded, and within months, frustration returned. Then came September 30th, 2022. In a dramatic and bloodless coup, 34-year-old Ibrahim Traoré and his fellow officers removed Damiba from power, citing his inability to secure the country and unify the armed forces. The world watched in astonishment as this youthful, stern-faced captain addressed the nation, not with bombast, but with clarity. He promised no lavish titles, no dynastic rule, just action. Traoré pledged to fight for sovereignty, for security, and for the people long ignored by elites in the capital. Almost immediately, Traoré broke from convention. While other African leaders clung to colonial ties, Traoré distanced himself from France, the former colonial ruler of Burkina Faso. He shut down French military bases, expelled French diplomats, and embraced a bold Pan-African rhetoric. His government sought partnerships with non-Western powers like Russia, signaling a geopolitical pivot that sent shockwaves through global capitals. At home, he launched the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, recruiting thousands of civilians to fight alongside soldiers against insurgents. While some hailed this as empowering the people, critics warned of untrained militias and potential human rights abuses. Yet for many Burkinabé, it was a long-awaited call to arms. International observers were quick to label him an authoritarian, but in Ouagadougou and beyond, murals of Traoré appeared on walls, and his name was chanted in streets. He became a symbol, not just of resistance, but of a new African defiance. To some, he was the heir to Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's martyred revolutionary leader from the 1980s, who famously rejected imperialism and championed African self-reliance. Traoré echoed Sankara's spirit, even visiting his grave in a symbolic gesture of continuity. Still, his path is fraught with peril. Armed groups continue to destabilize the country. Economic hardship weighs heavily. International aid has dwindled. And within his own ranks, loyalty is never guaranteed. But Traoré seems undeterred. In speeches, he speaks not like a career politician, but like a soldier who's seen too much and has nothing left to lose. He calls on African youth to wake up, to stop begging, and to build a future with their own hands. Whether he succeeds or falls remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: Ibrahim Traoré has reignited a conversation that powerful nations tried to bury, a conversation about freedom, ownership, and the right of African nations to shape their own destiny. In a world still haunted by the legacy of colonialism, he stands as a reminder that the fight for liberation is far from over. In the heat of Burkina Faso's crisis, a young man stepped forward not to rule, but to reclaim. And as history writes his story, the world watches closely, for his footsteps may chart the course of a new African century.